there, and welcome to the I Never Knew podcast, also known as Inc. This show dives into the life experiences of people who have been through it all and have come through the other side stronger, better, and triumphant. Each story is raw, authentic, and, at times, heartbreaking. One thing joins it all together: the fact that the stories can help the listener learn and grow. Hosted by life coach Maureen, she sits down each episode with a new guest who will empower the listener to set out on their self-discovery journey and start to heal. Now you'll be joined by Maureen and her special guest. Please enjoy the show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of I Never Knew, But My Dog Did podcast. I am your host, Maureen Scanlon, or Life Coach Maureen, as most of you know me. I have a super awesome treat for you guys today. And as I always say, I have the best guests on the planet, hands down. I don't care what anybody says. Come for me on that because it's true. Today, I have a fantastic guest. And in addition to my fantastic guest, I have a fantastic co-host. So my daughter, Jordania, is co-hosting with me today. Jordania, say hello.
Hello. I'm so excited to be doing this. It's been a long time coming.
I should say that I have two co-hosts because she is pregnant with my fantastic little grandbaby in there. We don't know the gender, so they are also along to co-host today. So let me tell you about our guest. First of all, he's super handsome. Can I just say that? You guys are going to see him on YouTube and be like, oh my gosh, whatever this guy has to say, I'm listening, because he's just got such a great smile and presence, and he's super handsome. So Ben Smith is a fitness and nutrition coach, entrepreneur, Army veteran, and mental health advocate based in Los Angeles. With more than a decade working in health and fitness, he has led programming at respected strength training gyms in LA, developed online training for high-performing individuals all over the world, and currently travels the globe as a performance coach for clients in the music industry. Ben leverages his platform to promote holistic mind, body, wellness by candidly sharing his own experience along the way. So, hello, Ben.
That's a long intro. I have to cut that down. That's a lot.
No, that's actually not bad for some of them. Where I'm like, I'm out of breath by the time
that's a lot for you to have to get out. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to have this talk, and hopefully I can live up to that glowing intro that you gave me. But thank you guys so much for having me.
Absolutely. So all of it I love. First of all, I was an Army wife, and Jordania here was actually born on an Army base in Heidelberg, Germany. So, we're all just
very cool.
We're going to tie in all the synergy and synchronicities here today. So there's that.
Yeah.
So here on Inc., of course, as we talked about offline, we all have a knee story. So we all have what I call the knee story is, that moment in your life where you just hit your knees, you were broken, and you said, I don't know what to do with my life. This is not working. Where do I go from here? So let's start with your knee story, Ben.
Which one do you want?
Any of them. You can go back to toddler, you can go back to grade school, high school. I don't even care. Just give us that knee story.
Okay. So I was born on August 7th, 1990. No, I'm kidding. But so
he's
yeah,
going.
No. Well, I can frame this like in the context of the work that I do now. So I'm a wellness professional, a performance coach for musicians, mostly touring musicians at this point, like you said in the introduction. But I can talk a little bit about my experience, as an athlete to where I am now. And there's lots of like trials and tribulations and things that have shaped me and afforded me the opportunity to be valuable in my work. Okay. So I was raised in Indianapolis, Indiana. I'm a Midwest boy, but I was an athlete my entire life, and a lot of my worth was tied to my ability to perform on the field or on the court, or I played ice hockey most of my life on the ice. And I found very quickly that I was valuable as an athlete. I was anxious as a child. I didn't really feel accepted by my peers. I spent a lot of my time with adults just because that's who I related to. Um, and then after high school, I joined the military. So I went to the United States Military Academy and I graduated there, commissioned as an officer, and then served nearly 7 years active duty in the military. And I found, similarly to my time as a youth athlete, that while I was in the Army, my ability to be the biggest, strongest, fastest, most dominant, physical persona was valuable. But then also being a leader to soldiers was also an incredibly valuable thing for me, and a way that I was able to transition my identity from athlete to soldier to leader, or whatever the role was in the military. And I got out as a 28-year-old after having a reasonably successful career. I thought I would stay in forever. I had some injuries that just really kind of reframed how I wanted the rest of my life to go. And I was like, I'm 26 years old. I don't want to be injured for the rest of my life. And so that started my transition out of the military. At 28, I left. And then I realized that I didn't actually have an identity. I was no longer an athlete. I was no longer a soldier. I was no longer an Army officer. And I was like kind of broken physically, mentally, and emotionally. And so the loss of that career, the loss of my purpose, any sort of fulfillment that I had from my professional work was gone. I ended a relationship, and I just happened to be living in the most expensive city in America at the time. And so it was a combination of factors, and I never had to deal with my feelings or my emotions or really process anything. I'd just thrown myself into sports or thrown myself into work, or at that time I'd thrown myself into drugs, alcohol, sex, whatever it was, things to distract me from what I was actually feeling. And it all came to a head in the fall of 2018. I ended up trying to kill myself in October of 2018, and then again in January of 2019. And they were both unsuccessful, which is like crazy to me that I wasn't able to even do that. But it was kind of like this all of a sudden, oh my God, dude, you have to like change something.
Right.
And so I was very blessed. I had a couple support people in my life. My roommate at the time was about 10 years older than me. He happened to be a coach himself. And so he was like, yo, dude, you need to go see a therapist. You need to get involved in some things that are going to get you on the right track. So with his pushing, or with really his, mentorship, I was able to find a therapist that helped me out. I was able to pour myself into something that I was passionate about, which at that time was coaching. I had been a coach for 10 years at that point.
And how did
So
you
it was
end up, living with?
No, go for it. So we went to the same school. We connected via the internet. He was leaving Florida. He was living in Florida at the time, wanted to move to Los Angeles. I happened to be leaving the Army at the exact same time and was living just outside of Los Angeles. He was coming here, and I was like, hey, let's link up.
Isn't that funny? Just not funny. It's not a coincidence, but just how, you ended up living with him, and it sounds like almost ended up saving your life,
Yeah, I mean, I attribute him with a lot of, at least like getting things in motion. Like without him, I wouldn't have found the support that I needed.
And sometimes that's the hardest part.
Yeah,
totally. And I think to answer your question, like, what is it I wish I would have known, or whatever, I think the thing, or the theme at least, is that I wish I would have known I could have asked for help.
yeah.
And that was a thing that I didn't realize was even available to me. I've spoken on this many times in many different forums. It's like the message across all of the times that I share this is like, there were so many assets or so many people available to me that I just didn't even recognize. I didn't even know.
Did it like even
options.
cross your mind to like?
It didn't even cross my mind. And I think it's, an aspect of like my programming, or like the pattern that I would fall into.
That's where I was going to go with that, Ben. It's so funny that a lot of us, how, whether it was in your house, so like in my household growing up, it was just put up and shut up. It was suck it up, buttercup. It was, you made your bed, lie in it. Or in the military environment, being that I know that environment as well. I mean, athletics, you need to just be tough. It's all about what are you physically doing. Nobody cares about your feelings and your mental well-being. Then you go to the military. You're supposed to be this leader and this mentor to your team. So you never knew it was okay to be vulnerable.
And then on top of all that, you're a man.
And you're a man, right?
Well, for me specifically, all of those things played into it. I'm raised in a rather conservative home in the middle of America where, you don't really, it's not that, people are like, you can't share your feelings, but it's just nobody does. And so it's like, I never learned that was appropriate or acceptable. And then you play sports and I'm like the team captain of all my sports growing up. I'm like the leadership role. And then I go into the Army and just like you said, it's amplified, that whole thing where it's like, you can't be cold, you can't be tired, you can't be hungry, you can't be upset. You have to like set the example for the people that follow you. And so it's like even more. And then I left the Army and I didn't have any support. And so it was like, I didn't understand how much I relied on the team, the support of like either my team or my peers in the military, or even like, the support of a partner, like a romantic partner.
Just
like
being surrounded by someone all the time, and then all of a sudden like alone all the time and have all this thinking space.
And also the external validation of whether it's receiving the accommodations for military or your team complimenting you, and what was missing perhaps, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, is that internal validation, right?
Well, I think too, it's like I found it helpful. You said, I don't know the language that you used at the beginning, but like you found your worth. I'm still very much in the process of figuring out what that feels like. It's been 5 years since I started therapy. In addition to therapy, I've adopted many other practices that have been incredibly valuable. And most of those have found their way into my coaching practice. So I always say like the work that I do professionally is literally just me trying to heal myself. And I just invite other people to participate with me. And I get that sense of community now from the people that I coach. And it's not, I don't look at it as like a coach athlete or like mentor mentee type relationship. It's more of a peer relationship where we're holding hands and we're in this together. And I think that's allowed me to one, be like more committed to the process because I feel like it's more of this team thing and it's not so transactional. It's like this really synergistic, like equally beneficial relationship. And it's allowed me to like selfishly, it's allowed me to heal, which has been really cool.
Well, I love that. And like healing is also like a lifelong process,
Sure.
It's not just like 5 years, I should be good now. It's like
the same way that your wellness, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual is just a lifetime effort. It's not it's not a 3-week challenge. It's
a well-rounded balance that you try to find and maintain at the best level that you can for coping, because energy changes every day. And so tomorrow could be a really bad day, but you're going to have the better coping mechanisms to deal with it. But I love what you said about that, because as a life coach myself, and I'm actually in the process of going for my master life coach practitioner.
It's great.
And I always say my clients teach me more than I ever teach them, and they don't believe that. But when I have a client that comes and they're at that place of feeling so lost and really not fulfilled, I'll say, well, what is your purpose and what are you doing to fulfill that purpose? Let's volunteer somewhere. Let's find something that you just absolutely love to do. And it's great when you find that, you notice, I'm healing. When I'm healing, I'm helping others. Once I'm helping others, then it's healing me. It's this
circle.
I
see that. The way that you describe that, I think, is really cool, because I see a lot of people who come, to me or to come to any coach, and they see themselves as the victim or like the victim of their circumstance. And I like totally agree that like everything that's happened to you, trauma or otherwise, has shaped the person that you are today. And I like love that. And I think that the trauma-informed therapy world is incredibly valuable and allows people to gain awareness around maybe why they feel or why they act or why they experience the world in the way that they do. But I'm really interested in like flipping the script and not assuming that victim role, becoming more in control of what happens next. And it's like, because of the things that have happened to me or because of my lived experience, now I get to make a choice, one, to like choose a path worth taking, choose a future worth living, and then two, find the next right manageable step and take that step in the direction of the things that I say that I want. And like, it's really those two extra pieces, like choosing what you want and then doing the next right thing, the thing that's manageable for you to do next, that are like the two most important things. And I see often people like, you know, maybe come to you and they're like, oh, I want fulfillment, I want this. And it seems like it's so far away.
Yeah.
But like, it's really just like, what's the next thing? What's this next small thing that you can do?
What's the
And then
tiniest step that you can
Yeah.
take? And everything that we do is choice. And I
Totally.
think that's the most empowering thing about change, whether you're doing it physically, mentally, emotionally, or spiritually, is when I feel I have a choice, then I feel empowered. When I feel empowered, I take action. When I take action, I change habits. When I change habits, I become this different person.
And being raised by her, I feel like you take a similar approach, like about like being in control and let's just take one step at a time. I feel like you've done that my whole life, so I can relate to that for sure.
And that's really cool to have a mom that does that.
Yeah.
It wasn't always that way, trust me.
That's
though.
that's really cool.
I mean, she's been my greatest teacher, and you know, I've watched her grow into this really beautiful, unbelievable young woman who came out of the circumstance. And she's got a brother and a sister, and they're all three different. And coming out of the trauma that we all experience, her father was an alcoholic, and you know, he did domestic violence against myself, never to my children. But seeing her be able to overcome that, and she decided choices. So she has a sibling, an older sister, who doesn't feel she has choices, and we're kind of estranged from her because she's a victim mentality, where she always said, I have a choice to change it. And
because you told me.
She went to college. She had two majors and a minor, and everything she's ever wanted, traveling solo.
But none of that was easy, because we, you know, didn't have like financial hardship was difficult during those years. But I do remember, like, in those times where I'd be so overwhelmed, I would reach out to you and you would just say, let's just see what we can do next. Like, let's just don't look at graduation on your sophomore, whatever. Like, let's see how we get through the next semester.
And sometimes that's all you can do, is like, what's the next immediate thing? If it's the next 5 minutes, you know, if that's what helps you. And I love you overcoming that feeling of wanting to not be here anymore, and just taking that step to say, what do I do? Like, I'm going to go to therapy. What did you discover about yourself?
Well, how many hours do you have to talk about that?
As long as you need. Here we are, we are in session.
I think, I'll go back. So you said I didn't want to be here anymore. And it, like, I have said that before, like when I didn't have the language to actually describe what I was feeling, I was like, oh, I just didn't want to be around anymore. And like, I don't know that that's actually the truth. I think the truth is that I just didn't want to be in pain. I didn't want to deal, and it's not like physical pain. Like, I can do physical pain. I would choose physical pain every single time over what I was feeling in late 2018. But it was like this feeling of despair, this like painful feeling of despair. And I just didn't want to feel like that anymore. And I didn't have the tools. I didn't have any tools or any awareness around how to navigate that. And what's really interesting is I still feel those things. Like, I am still in that place. I wouldn't say often, but regularly I'm in that place. But I have now the tools and a pretty extensive toolkit to navigate those feelings. And I've understood, one, that, like you said, you know, everything is hard, or those choices are hard, or having multiple majors is hard. Everything is hard. Like everything is hard. Whether you are living your fulfilled life, like whether you're actualized or not, it's all hard.
Yes. And
like, as soon as
nobody recognizes that either.
No.
They think that if they feel these hard feelings, like, my life is just so hard. But it's like, no.
Movies and fairy tales aren't reality. Like, everything is hard. But it's just like where you sit on the spectrum of hard, or like how you can frame it for you. Like, now I welcome the hard stuff, because I know that for sure Ben later, like Ben 2 months from now, or Ben 2 hours from now, is going to be really excited about the fact that he navigated something that was at the moment really challenging.
Oh, I love that. I always tell people, do something your future self will thank you for.
Yeah.
It's like my favorite thing right there.
And people, and like, again, the context of my work now is wellness. Like the majority of it is fitness. It just happens to be physical fitness. But I think, physical fitness is the gateway drug into mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. And it's like, if you need to get out of your thinking mind, your analytical mind, and into your feeling body, the quickest way to do that is get your heart rate up and breathe a little heavier.
Yeah.
And like, it doesn't necessarily need to be that, but that's just a thing that I found. You asked, what have I learned about myself? I've learned that I don't treat myself very well. I don't have much grace for Ben. I don't act like I would act towards a friend with myself. And these are things that I'm working through all the time. But I have learned that I have the capability of getting better, whatever that means, or recovering, or actively seeking recovery or a better existence. And that's really exciting because I think momentum like begets momentum, or success begets other success. And so it's like I see the little growth, the little tiny changes, and I'm like, oh God, like I can actually do this. And now in the work that I do, I'm able to not only grow myself, but share in that growth with other people who are equally as committed to the things that we say that we want.
And that's really what cool. Makes you a better coach. I think, whether it's a life coach or any kind of an athletic coach, any kind of coach that has been there, done that, is going to make you, is going to be more inspirational because we've been there and we know what it feels like. And Ben, the thing is you can't outrun or outlift or out and eat any mental issues, anything that any emotional problems that we have. And I love that you said is you don't give yourself grace. And the thing is the physical working out is an outlet. We need an outlet, but we also need the emotional and mental outlets too. And I think
for sure
they're one and the same. I think if your mental health isn't good, your physical health isn't good. If your physical health isn't good, your mental health isn't good. So we do this in synchrony with one another. But I think the outlets and the ability to share and especially with others, doing this podcast for me is life. Everyone, there are listeners out there right now that are like, oh man, I need to talk to Ben. I'm like Ben. I need to reach out to Ben, and I'm kind of in this struggle right now too. And I've been there, done that. We are all experiencing this in life. And I'm gonna just counter something, because as a life coach, when you say everything is hard, everything is as hard as you see it.
Right.
That's the difference. Yes. If you see your struggles, if you see everything that happens, I used to be the one that would say, oh God, this happened. And it comes in threes. Oh God, the other shoe's going to drop. Bad things are going to happen.
It definitely doesn't do that. But just having the awareness that, like, if I'm seeking ease, like ease isn't coming. There's this quote that I really like. It says, if happiness doesn't exist here, it doesn't exist anywhere. And so for me, every year I have, this is kind of off topic, but I'll bring it back around, I promise. So every year I commit to learning a new skill or creative practice. And then I also have an intention for that year. And that seems crazy because there's like 365 days in a year. And it's wild that I would have one single intention for that entire year. But I, 2 years ago, it was presence. Last year it was gratitude. This year it's connection for my intentions. The creative pursuit thing doesn't really matter, but it involves like singing and writing and piano and other stuff that I don't ever get to pursue and I don't really get to do in my life, but I've dedicated time for that. But in the same way, I've dedicated time to like really be intentional with finding presence, gratitude, and connection. And for connection, I've done podcasts like this, and I'm trying to like be more public with my work, and it's been a really challenging process for me. But I think back to your point about like framing things, like if you can be present and gratitude and have great gratitude for what's happening in this present moment, and then see that like everything is totally fine, and just gain confidence around the fact that like, okay, I have exposure to this thing that might be like scary, on the outside might be scary, but I'm actually present and grateful for the thing that's happening. And this can apply to training or difficult conversations or like financial struggles or whatever it is, just be grateful for all of it. I know that's crazy to say. And if I was listening to this 5 years ago, I'd be like, oh, I'd be so cynical. And I'd be like, shut up, dude.
Yeah, screw you.
Like, I'm not grateful. I'm broke and I want to like end my life every day. But like now removed from that, I am so grateful that I had that experience because it's afforded me the opportunity to one, have like a conversation like this, but then also do the work that I'm supposed to do. Like the thing I do every day for my professional job is the one thing that I'm supposed to do, which is
Amazing.
wild.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
is that's what I always say is now it's your get to. That's what I say about
Yeah.
podcasting and life coaching and all of it. When you're living your get to, that's a whole different ball game. And
Yeah.
I hate to word vomit the buzzwords of the wellness and health and wellness community. It drives me crazy, but until you've been there and then you come back, you're like, oh yeah, that makes total sense. And the mantras, I remember when I was able to say, rather than life happened to me, life is happening for me. And
Yeah.
to now, whenever something goes wrong, I can sit for one moment and just go, what am I trying to learn from this? What am I asking to learn from this? Instead of,
yeah, I think like a recent event in my life real quick is just like going through, a friendship breakup. And literally when I would talk to like one of my best friends about this, I was like, it's okay that I'm going through this. Like I recognized it in the moment, which takes learning, right? Like, but I knew it. I was like, I know that when this is finished, like I'm gonna learn from this and I'm gonna like have this experience to help others through maybe a similar situation. And like that's
Totally.
okay. Like don't feel bad for me. Like I know I'm going through this for a reason.
It's all about feeling it, but not staying in it. And I think, Ben, that's what you are teaching us right now. Because you said, I'm still in this, Maureen. I still have these moments, but you don't stay there. You go, okay, what coping mechanisms do I have now? What mindset tools can I use today? You're never going to not have moments. That was such a double negative, but you're always going to have moments of stress and struggle and feeling low self-worth or problems, whatever it is, right?
And I think it's important to note that like different than before, my coping mechanisms are positive rather than distractions. So no longer am I turning to alcohol or drugs or anything else, even fitness or food or whatever it was. Now I'm sitting with the emotion, I'm feeling my feelings, and then leveraging those feelings into potentially having a different response later. Because if you don't ever address it or ever like really work through it, you don't build the confidence in your ability to navigate it, without any sort of intervention.
It
And
sits
so
there. It just sits there and it just kind of grows and grows and grows and grows like a snowball, I think.
And
You asked.
Sorry.
Go ahead. No, do it.
Just going through recently what I didn't have a choice to resort to alcohol because I am 7 months pregnant. So like I think it was kind of cool to like recognize being in the middle of it and still being able to cope with it and recognizing like, hey, it's okay. I'm going through this for a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You weren't looking for an escape anymore. Now you're finding the escape is the unhealthy distractions, as you put it.
Yeah.
And then the now coping is the healthy mechanism that I use to deal with it, sit with it for a minute. I always say sit with it, have a cup of coffee with it, but then it's got to leave. It's got to go away. You don't stay with it and hang out with it. And then you can move on to the next thing that feels better for you. Go to the next better feeling.
Yeah. And for me, the realization has been that like the things that I think are the end of the world actually aren't.
Yeah. This too shall pass is a great mantra.
I say this thing kind of like flippantly, just like in conversation all the time. Like sometimes it's deep, other times it's not. Or like sometimes it matters, other times it doesn't. Most of the time it's not that deep. Like, yeah, your feelings feel like they are very important, which is like totally fine. And you should probably honor them in the moment and give them time and space and give yourself a little grace for whatever it is that you're experiencing. But like from my own experience, the things that I thought were the worst thing ever, like it could be any number of things. I've had several friendship breakups in the past 2 years, but I thought they were the end of the world, but they're not.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't want that to sound insensitive, but they're totally not.
No.
And they've created space for me to do a ton of other things and also bring in relationships that actually are valuable to me
Yeah.
and valuable to them. I think friendships are an interesting thing because different than most romantic relationships, friendships often materialize out of convenience. And so it's like, okay, they're a work associate, or they're like the person that's in my class, or like they're the kid that lives down the street. And we think just because friendships have lasted forever that they're somehow valuable to us. And like maybe they are, but like I think it all comes back to your ability to be aware of how things are impacting you, and like having awareness around what comes of that friendship is probably really important. And like I don't know the context of your friendship breakup, but like thank God it happened, because now you have the cool opportunity to no longer have whatever energy that person was bringing. And then in turn, you probably weren't the person for them either.
Right. Exactly.
Well,
And like we always say though, like you can outgrow a friendship at any point.
You should. Well, you should. You should.
You can outgrow.
You
can
should.
outgrow
You should.
people, and whether
You should. Yeah.
right relationships, friendships, and I think there's this false sense of loyalty to someone just because I've been your friend for 5 years or 10 years. I recently broke up with a friend after 18 years. And I realized what the problem was is that I wasn't seeing them for who they were today. I was seeing them for when I was, let's say, less than desirable level, when I was a mess and misery loves company. And then I healed, I moved on to a better place, and this person sort of stayed there. And then I realized I wasn't valued by them at all. And I still kind of hung in there. And I think it's whether it's romantic or business partners or friendships, or even family members, there's blood we're not tethered to each other. We're here to do something solo. Our souls have something to do here. And it's reason, season, lifetime. At any point, a contract can end is what I feel. And you can say, you know what, I appreciated the time we had together, but it's time for us to go separate ways. I have things to do over here. And bringing, like you said, when I do dating coaching, relationship coaching, I always tell people, if you're giving someone a second or third chance on a date that really you saw things you didn't want, you're literally saying to them, stay in my husband's way or stay in my wife's way.
Right.
You got to move people around. It's a shifting all the time of what works best for you, what serves you best.
Yeah, and I like
this has been
out the energy thing too.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting how and this is Ben talking to Ben. I've been reasonably unsuccessful in friendships and in in romantic relationships and things like that. And I think for a long time I just wasn't able or wasn't confident enough in establishing boundaries and strong enough in asserting the things that I wanted or needed from partners or from friends or from whatever it is. And I think, everybody is growing and everybody is working into, I used the word actualized earlier, but like a more actualized existence. And my work specifically, you asked at the very beginning, what are things I've learned? And the thing that's been most valuable for me, I wouldn't say it's the self-worth thing. I mean, maybe this kind of falls into it, but my ability to be strong in my boundaries and actually stand for the things that it is that I want, like stand for the things that I want.
I feel like that's so challenging for so many people too.
Yeah.
One of the things that like really shows up for me is I had attempted to remove alcohol from my life for several years. I'm on my 5th try. So for people out there, like if you're curious about not drinking or like whatever, or just get pregnant. But see, I don't have that luxury. So
the luxury.
Oh my God! Don't come for my friend Ben. I'm gonna.
I was kidding. That was a joke. That was a joke. That was a joke. But in the context of not drinking, like if you're pregnant and you drink, that's one thing. But I didn't want to consume alcohol. Every time I did anything that I was like regretting, or if I made a list of all the bad things I've ever done in my life, they all involved alcohol in some form. And if I made a list of all the times that alcohol added value to my life, there is no items on that list. And so I made the choice finally to remove drinking, and standing in that boundary, like, it's not, oh, I'm not drinking tonight. It's like, no, I don't drink. Like, I just don't do that. And standing in that space was the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life. And I'm like just over 2 years in, and it's still hard, and I still hate it. But it's the best thing. It's the best thing I've ever done.
Yeah. Well, because that comes with like friends and like all these social gatherings, and like, I can
I
imagine
don't
you
have
lost
I don't have a
friends.
social I don't have a social life. But
Yeah.
that's okay. That's okay, because the things that I've been able to bring into my life in the absence of the time and emotional commitments that those social relationships provided me have been so much more valuable.
Yeah.
And there's a ton of other things that are way worse. Like dating as a sober guy is way worse. But like, you know, it's a thing I'm interested in navigating, and interested in learning more about, and interested in you know, experiencing. And
you're approaching it like a challenge too, almost, which is like almost gamifying it, which is like, I don't
for
know.
sure. Yeah. I don't know
Yeah.
if that's the most valuable way to look at it, but for me right now in the place I'm in, that's the way I look at it. And I think maybe there's a way to like tie this back into the work that I do. But so I've been a strength conditioning coach and a personal trainer for the last 15 years. And the last 5, I've been spent almost exclusively coaching musicians on the road. So I tour with musicians. That life is incredibly chaotic. But there's been this massive exodus from the party lifestyle into a more sustainable, sober-ish style of touring. I'm really proud to say that myself and a couple other individuals are really leading that charge, especially in that space. And it's been really cool. It's been really cool. Thank you.
I can't wait to start dating coaching with you, because I have like so it's so funny how you know how we have these strengths. Like, you are so amazing in being able to be in a really good place to mentor others in some areas, and yet there's this duplicity we have where it's like, oh, I need help over in this area. And that's the beauty of coaching, is like, just because you're really good in this area, there's other areas that we need help with. And I have to tell myself all the time, okay, coach the coach. So
I've failed every romantic relationship I've ever been in.
You know what? You've never failed anything.
I'm all right.
Okay. I'm just going to put it out there. You've never failed any romantic relationship.
They just weren't right for me.
We're not in right. Exactly. And it's not even,
and I wasn't right for them.
You just weren't a good match at that moment. And the synchronization of when you find your match, first of all, we got to get you clear on who you love most, which is you first. Second of all, we're going to create exactly the avatar of what you're looking for, because you can't date until you know what you want. You don't know what you want yet.
Also, like, truthfully, on my list of priorities, it's funny that we say priorities too, which I think is hilarious, because there's one priority. You have one priority, and then you have another priority after that one's been taken care of. But on my list of priorities, dating is like it's way down at the bottom.
Yeah.
I tour like 10 months out of the year, so I'm not even around. But yeah, I mean, I'd love to talk about it and learn more about myself. But yeah, so the work that I do, talking about doing hard things, like me looking at dating as a sober individual as like a challenge or an opportunity to experience something new, with this massive transition out of the like the music tour party lifestyle into something more sustainable, where I'm looking for opportunities as a challenge to these individuals who like might have been seeking distraction instead. So it's like almost like flipping the script. And so we do a lot of like exposure therapy with cold, like cold plunge or sauna or breath work. We train, we eat well. It's a whole like holistic, for lack of a better term, practice. And it's, I said this earlier when we were chatting before the show, it's like, if you read the introduction or my like one slider, you'd be like, oh, he's just like the trainer guy. But like, fitness is free. Like, you can just Google all the stuff that I present to a client or work with somebody in the gym on. You just Google that. Like, fitness is free in 2023. And even like nutrition, like, I'm happy to prescribe and I'm happy to coach it. It's the thing I know best, but like, you don't need me for that. But I think the place that I'm most valuable is, one, creating a safe space for people to try things that are inherently scary. And that could be getting in a cold tub. That could be getting under a heavy barbell. That could be eating more vegetables, whatever it is. And then 2, getting them really excited about a thing that they maybe weren't sure they were excited about yet.
So I read
Like
on
it's
the
re-
bio.
Go
Can
ahead.
you dive deeper into like the whole like fitness culture thing and kind of
Yeah.
making it attainable?
We discussed
Well,
this because I'm on one end of the spectrum and she's on the other. We both were like, we have to ask him about that because
Send it.
I don't like fitness. I don't like working out, and
Yeah.
I don't like gyms. I don't like that. I don't like people looking at me. And I'm over 50. I'm nifty over nifty 50 here. And
Yeah.
hormones take over and menopause, and you get to a point where you're just like, there's nothing I can do. Nothing changes. My body doesn't change. So talk to us about that, about the fitness culture, and why do I not like it, and how do we get the new generations to like it more?
Like how do you make it attainable, like fitness and
Yeah.
for yourself?
Yeah, well, I think you said earlier something about like what the future version of you will be excited about or stoked about. And it's like, I don't necessarily I do like fitness, but I don't want to train all the time. I don't want to like go to the gym all the time, but I'm very sure that like a later version of Ben, an older version of me will be really excited that I did something today to help improve my fitness. And I think we live in like a black or white. You talked about being on opposite ends of the spectrum. I don't know. Anytime I've ever been black or white in my thinking, it's led to some sort of disappointment. And so I challenge people to live more in the gray. Like, if you don't want to go to the gym.
Having ADHD, I'm so black and white, so that's something.
Yeah,
like,
same.
Yeah.
But so if you don't want to go to the gym, like don't go to the gym.
Yeah.
But I'm very positive that there is a sustainable fitness practice that could exist inside your home or in your front yard or in a place that makes you feel comfortable. And maybe I don't have like specifically the answer for you. Like I don't have the address of the place where you should go, but I do know that there are people out there who provide information to you talked about avatars and dating, your exact avatar. For me specifically, my goal is to provide simple fitness information to as many people as possible. So what that looks like, the majority of the work I do publicly is basic resistance training that can either be a supplement to your regular fitness practice or just exist on its own as like the thing you do for fitness. Yeah. Resistance training is the thing that I know and love. It's been the staple of my wellness for my entire life. So that's the thing, of course, that I push. I'm biased. Yeah. But like if you don't want to lift weights, like don't lift weights.
That's what I was trying to tell you the other day. I was
go for a walk. Go for a walk.
I hate fitness and blah blah blah. And I'm like, well, you need to find something you like. Like me, I love yoga and like that's an outlet, and it makes
you love your dogs. You love your dogs.
That's my thing, is just going for a walk with my dogs and going to the dog park.
That's fantastic. That's a start.
Again, coaching the coach here, because I tell people all the time, you need to do meditation, and I'm ADHD too. I mean, welcome to me and my poor kid here.
You know what people hate?
What?
When you say the words need, should, or have to.
Yes.
So
it's the neuro receivers in your head that say, I'm not getting rewarded for this. It's a sacrifice, and I'm losing dopamine from it. But you are right. When I tell my clients, hey, try meditation, when you need to just relax, you're feeling overwhelmed. And people will say, well, I can't just sit there and do nothing. And what do I say? Your meditation depends on you. A walk in the park is meditation, listening to music, petting your dog. So I guess fitness, we could look at it the same way, is find the thing that keeps you moving up, active. It doesn't necessarily have to be in a gym. It doesn't have to be weightlifting. It can be anything.
With emotions, like you make it what it is, right? Like,
When you can reframe the context of whatever your fitness is, like you're talking about, it could be like physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual, but it's also like maybe the goal is not performance or aesthetic based, and it's like more practice oriented. So like when I work, like a majority of the people, like I said, public facing work that I do, a lot of my work is like word of mouth and very private, and it's been that way for a long time. And so this year my challenge is to be more public. My theme for the year is connection, so I'm looking to promote on a broader scale the work that I do, just because I want to help more people. I want to establish some sort of credibility as someone that helps a lot of people. And so a majority of the people that I'm interacting with at the moment are people who have never done fitness ever.
Good.
or
Good.
they've never touched a weight in their life. And so the challenge or my charge to most of those individuals is, one, just find something that interests you. You
Yeah.
have to be incredibly curious. I need to be excited about that thing. So if I'm interested in it, then like I stand a far greater chance of just showing up in the first place. And
Yeah.
then secondly, find an external accountability source. It could be your daughter, it could be a partner, it could be a coach, it could be the community at a gym, a yoga studio, a dance club, or whatever. But if you have something that you're interested in and some sort of external accountability, then your chances of showing up more times than one or more times than not through the roof. And then after a little bit, like we talked about momentum begetting more momentum or success begetting more success. It's like as soon as you show up and you see, oh my God, this is freaking great, then you'll probably show up on your own without the external accountability source. And then you win.
Yeah. Well, doing something 3 times creates that habit. So
Sure.
three times of the same thought becomes a belief, 3 times of the belief becomes a habit, and so on. So show up at least 3 times. Well, if there's anything, listeners, we want to say is just at least do something 3 times to see if it sticks with you or it resonates with you or it feels good with you. So I just love everything that you said. I'm so happy that Jordan, you were here with me today. And Ben, I always end my episodes with something fun because we always have such heavy topics. So my new segment that I'm just recently started is called What Can You Do For Me? And this segment is about all the weird services that are out there in the world that you can purchase. And so I want you to think about one while I give you an example. And I'm putting her on the spot too. So you have to think of one and you have to think of one. And I'll give you the example that I found. There is a Rent-A-Mom, which I'm really looking at, some side gig over here to be a Rent-A-Mom. Basically when kids go to college, or maybe you have a mom that maybe you're estranged and you're kind of embarrassed by her, and you have somewhere you have to present a parent, maybe you rent a mom. And then the other one is something called the breakup shop. And you can actually hire someone to break up with someone for you, which as a life coach, I'm completely opposed to. And
it's like serving somebody papers.
But I'm just going to say this, it is pretty affordable. A text is only $10. A letter is only $20. And an actual phone call is $29. So, I mean, they're pretty affordable if you're going to weasel out that way and pay someone you probably didn't have a great relationship to begin with. And your person probably doesn't even want to be with you if you're going to be kind of like that. So we're going to take it to Jordan first and see what have you seen as a weird service offered that, or you could even be something you want?
Well, I think that this is something that I might dabble into, or I'm going to dabble into, but whenever I tell people like I want to start this kind of business, they're always like, what do you mean? But like an organizing business, just have someone come to your house and organize stuff.
Stuff. There's stuff. We all have stuff.
Your closet, you don't like it, I will come and make it good. And I think it's cool for like neurodivergence too. And like I can work with your ADHD and make what like works for you. But some people are just like, wait, what? That's a thing?
It is a thing. And tell them the name of your business.
Well, it's not launched yet, but it will be called Shine. What is it? I barely made a logo. Shine Designs and Organization.
There you go.
That's great.
There you go.
I've used a service like that for a long time, and it's so valuable.
Oh
yeah, because I'm chaotic. I'm rather chaotic, and my things for as long as I've been alive, my mom will call it like, oh, he's just doing a bend or whatever. But like I walk in the house and just take off all my clothes and my bags and my shoes. Like if I tilted the camera down, you'd see there's like backpacks and packages and shoes over there.
Honestly, one of my like prime like clients would be like young men who like are young professionals and are just like and coming in and just like teaching them how to, like, you don't have to just throw it there. I can put a little hook on here.
Yeah, all right. You know what makes me laugh is when you become a verb, you know you're doing something that's probably not a good habit. So doing a bend.
Yeah. It's funny because there's like 14 different versions of like doing a bend, given like where I am. If I'm at home, that's what it is. If I'm somewhere else, it's something else.
Yeah.
So what's your
That's good.
thing? What's your service thing that you've seen that's really weird or something that you would even like embrace?
Yeah, something. Well, you saying the hire a mom thing got me thinking about something I saw at a fair when I was younger. But I think it's a real thing, and it might exist here in Los Angeles. But it's called like hire a hug. And basically, like if you're missing human contact, you can hire somebody. And I don't know if this is like sex work or something, but like you can hire somebody to come and just give you a hug.
Yeah.
They have like
and I remember,
cuddle coaches.
yeah, I remember specifically, I saw this thing where it was like you could tailor the hug to like what you wanted, like if it was like a mom hug or like a dad hug or like something. And for the parent hugs, they brought a stool and they would stand on a stool, so you would hug them like it was like you're a child. And
Also upcharge that.
Upcharge.
well, sure. But that's a real thing. That's a real thing, and maybe it says something about me. But I would hire a hug. And then another thing is, I think, how can I help? The thing that I do is I coach people, and so I think often, and you probably see this in your work, people are like, "Why would I need a life coach? Like, why would I need to invest the money in a life coach?" I'm a coach, and I have a life coach. I have a business coach. I have a life coach. I have a therapist, and I don't have a personal trainer. I'm my own personal trainer, but I think more people, and this is just a shameless plug, but I think more people would do well to invest in some sort of, like I said, with your wellness, some sort of external accountability. I think maybe we frame, sure.
Yeah.
Well, and I also think
we frame coaching in a weird way, but I think it's valuable.
Yeah, and having a third party that is not your friends and your family, because people are like, well, I can go to my mom for advice and my friend. No. A third party person is going to be so much more objective. Also, the one thing that I've noticed is the clients that I have coached for years that are committed to it and they do the maintenance coaching, they have been the most successful. They've made the most changes because
absolutely
it is maintenancing. It's like you go once a year to get your teeth cleaned at the dentist. I think you should go once a year or twice a year or once a month for your mental health and physical health and emotional health. I think it's because everything changes and you know when you get off track, and then they come back. Yeah. They'll come back. Usually they come back 6 months later and they're like, oh, my whole life fell apart again, Maureen.
Self-awareness.
You didn't. Yeah, it is. It makes you recognize more so you can integrate the changes on a more consistent basis. So
totally.
Well, thank you so much, Ben. This was so fun.
Thank you.
I'm so happy to have done my first co-hosting with you and with you and
with baby.
Yes, and so the funny thing, Ben, and I think I've said this on another podcast, is I forget that the baby's attached to her, and so I'm consistently got my head down there in the nether regions, like talking to the baby, and I don't care where we are. I'm like, hey. And she doesn't care. She's so sweet.
Shove it in her face.
She just goes. So yeah, it's very, very fun. So I'm excited for our little partner, our little cowboy, our little cowboy cowgirl coming, yeah, in August. But thank you again, Ben, guys.
Yeah.
Where can they find you, Ben? Give us all of your little plugs and your websites and everything where everyone can find you for services.
Yeah, so my social media username on all platforms is Ben V Smith, BenVeeSmith. My website is the same, benvsmith.com. You can go to any of those places and you're able to access all the different levels of coaching that I offer. It could be a lower cost option like the app, which is called Train with Ben, or it could be any other level of custom one-on-one or concierge type coaching. Do the whole thing. It's all the same stuff, just different levels of support. I love all of it equally. And I'm just really excited. Like I said, this year, my goal is to connect and really just push the public facing side of the work that I do, because I'm so excited to just contribute to people's development.
I love it. Your message needs to be heard, and you got to market yourself. If they don't know you're there, how can they find you? So there you go. That's very important. I'm very anti-salesy. I have a difficult time marketing myself.
Same. I hate it so much.
I know, and it's uncomfortable, but you know how good it is to do those things that we're uncomfortable with. It means we're making changes. So thank you so much. You're just a gem to have on with us today, and I appreciate you guys. I'll have all of his information in the show notes on YouTube, as well as his podcast on Apple. If you want to find me, you know where I am, lifecoachmaureen.com. And you can find my books on Amazon. My dog is more enlightened than I am. And my dog is my relationship coach for all those dating, marriage, and committed relationship tips and assistance. If nothing else, Ben, you better go read the book first.
I'll pick up the book.
And then when you are in the space where we're ready to dating coach, because you have all of the other coaches out there, you just don't have a dating coach. So once we clear all that through, then we'll do some dating coaching. So guys, yeah, go find us Amazon, Barnes & Noble. It's also Walmart and Target and Outskirts Press. And what I'm really proud of right now is we're doing amazing with our dog boutique. MyDogIsEverything.net, where everything is holistic treats for your dog. So no preservatives, no dyes, nothing bad in there for your puppy. Because as we're talking with Ben about eating and being healthy for ourselves, we want to make sure your puppies and canines are just as healthy. So go on to MyDogIsEverything.net and look for all those fun little products for safety and health. And with that, and go ahead if you want to.
I don't have it.
She doesn't have anything. She has
soon you will.
She does have a registry, and babies are expensive. So
Vanya Scholl's Amazon.
So there you go. Just go to her Amazon registry. I think there's a few things we haven't gotten yet. So by the time this posts, the baby's going to be like a year old. No, really. Thank you all for being here today. You know, I love all of you so much for just being committed to subscribing, to sharing this with your friends and family, because to me, the building of this community to support one another with love and laughter and kindness, and just to know on a human level, we are all there for one another. You reach out to me if you want to get a hold of Ben. You can also reach out to me and I'll get you his contact information. So anytime or any information you want to be a guest on the podcast as well, just go to lifecoachmaureen.com and we'll get you on there. So without delaying anymore, I would like to say to everybody, have a wonderful week and make sure you take care of yourself, take care of each other, but most of all, take care of those furry babies. Thank you. Until next week.
Thank you for tuning in to the I Never Knew podcast. If you found today's episode inspiring and educational, please be sure to follow, subscribe, and spread the word. The more people that join the Inc. community, the more it can develop and influence others as we work together for a healthier and brighter future. Until next time.